And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. On Saturday, the saga of the Chinese spy balloon finally ended when our very timid U.S. government, after 7 days, finally found the resolve to destroy a very obvious threat to our own national security. The media, of course, jumped for joy as the balloon was finally shot down after it had left our country and finished collecting data from our military bases, we assume. Pieces of the big balloon splashing down into the Atlantic Ocean. The panic media doing its job to save Biden from scrutiny after another weak capitulation to a foreign adversary. The media saying that waiting until the balloon had completed its mission was the only option because the debris would be too dangerous, which would be true if the balloon hadn't entered the country in rural Montana, where the odds of debris landing on a person are about 1 in a trillion. The narrative then changed again when the Pentagon revealed that this wasn't the first time that China had sent a spy balloon to the United States. Evidently, it's at least the fifth. And it happened 3 times under Donald Trump, they said. The government couldn't wait to drop that little nugget. The insinuation, of course, that Trump stood by several times when Chinese spy balloons just floated across our nation and did nothing. Meaning it's perfectly fine that Joe Biden did the same. An allegation that seemed way too good to be true, of course, and also impossible given what we know about former President Trump. Love him or hate him, Trump would have delighted in firing a rocket into that balloon himself. It would have happened about 3 minutes after the balloon entered northern Montana. Regardless of how stupid that allegation was, the media, of course, got to enjoy plenty of gotcha journalism against Republicans, like ABC's Jonathan Karl with Senator Marco Rubio.
We're also told, by the way, that this happened 3 times under the previous president. Obviously, there were no public notifications there.
And Marco had no response. Ooh, gotcha. Except not really. Rubio had no idea what to say because he was never informed that this had happened. In fact, nobody in our civilian government that we actually control knew about this. More evidence of one of the country's biggest problems. Unelected bureaucrats assuming that they are smarter than the people that you and I elect to make these decisions, a problem that was incredibly widespread under Donald Trump, when this country sent a wrecking ball to Washington to fix a shiftless and corrupted government, and the government said, no way. And as we watch our nation's obvious decline in standing around the world, it's very clear that our unelected permanent Washington, as they call it, are not experts at all, like they think they are. Their arrogance is sabotaging this country, and they refuse to admit it. And at the same time, they are almost entirely immune from accountability to the people. Under Trump, when balloons flew over the United States, according to Congressman Michael Waltz on the Armed Services and Intel Committee, Trump's own defense secretary likely refused to even tell the president or to tell Congress. James Mad Dog Mattis, you remember him, evidently was too scared Trump might actually respond to clear Chinese aggression and do something insane like maybe shoot it down in the middle of nowhere, preventing it from gathering any more intelligence. People like James Mattis don't want that because in today's America, testicular fortitude is considered a liability. Leading with strength doesn't align with our current value system, that capitulation and weakness actually leads to less conflict. By the way, we're currently testing this theory with law and order in the United States. You see how that's going. Mad Dog Mattis would end up resigning from the Trump White House in 2019, later called Trump a threat to the Constitution, a threat to democracy. Mattis was celebrated in articles like in The Atlantic for that comment. So if you're keeping score at home, democracy is now the Department of Defense withholding information from the public and withholding information from the man elected by the public to lead the country. General Mark Milley also claims to be a fierce defender of democracy and the Constitution, a man who bragged about telling his Chinese counterpart that he'd give them a heads up if Trump intended to make any moves against China.
Did you or did you not tell him that if we were going to attack, you would let him know?
I said, hell, generally I'll probably give you a call, but we're not going to attack you. Trust me, we're not going to attack you.
But I think you articulating that you would tell him, you would give him a call, I think is worthy of your resignation.
Milley was scolded by a Republican congresswoman, but praised by the left for that position. An act of treason done in defiance of Trump is now considered heroic, because anything done to subvert dangerous MAGA Republicans, as they call them, is considered saving democracy. By the way, China loves people like Mark Milley. We can't go back to those dangerous MAGA days, they tell us. Ending wars, reducing acts of terror around the world, peace through strength, can't have it. Horrifying. Establishment Washington despised it. Thankfully, now the adults are back in charge and the world is on fire, as it usually is. China testing the waters under Joe Biden and finding another embarrassing display of American weakness. America is back. China now threatening retaliation after our feeble, delayed destruction of their balloon, which was likely set to self-destruct anyways, we're told. But of course, none of that matters. You should be happy. Democracy is back. The country is better.